Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed the morning so far, but before we began the next session, I thought it would be a great opportunity to spend a few minutes discussing this past year, and by the time I get through, you'll understand why it's critically important. There's simply no way that we can welcome the next panel without setting the stage properly. Last year was a great year for us with great successes, but also great challenges. We went from what seemed to be our greatest of times at $8 billion in active construction projects compared to $4 billion, responding to disasters in weeks instead of months, and decreasing our project development times by 70%, and passage of the Build-NC, first transportation bond in our state since 1996. And then it seemed like we had to slam on brakes. But while that seemed to surprise some, it should not have. Since February of 2019, we have been working with our General Assembly on recommendations to help improve our cash challenges, and each month bringing increasing urgency. When I returned to NCDOT in January 2017, we certainly had a delivery problem which resulted in $2.2 billion in accumulated cash. Everyone agreed that we had to deliver the projects in North Carolina that people need, want, and have been, in many cases, waiting for decades. We're one of the fastest growing states in the nation in real growth, and certainly every year growing faster than the states of New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Illinois, and Michigan combined. So if you don't believe that transportation is important, just do nothing and you'll see, because our predictions are that the delays that we have today will only grow by 216% over the next 20 years if we do nothing different. And based on Tony's predictions, I need to add 50% more to that. So to solve this problem, we improved internal processes, reduced our project development times by 70%, and got projects ready to be delivered. We were achieving our targeted delivery levels of $3 billion annually, which was a 100% increase, which would have kept us around $750 million in our mandated cash range. And in 2019, we delivered major projects like the first 20 miles of improvement on I-95 has been awarded near Fayetteville, bringing it up to modern standards, and the first widening of that facility since it was originally constructed. Constructing the Havelock Bypass and improving US 70 to I-42 standards with upgrades around US 70 at James City, as well as constructing and awarding the project for the Rockingham Bypass, which connects US 220 and US 74. Building new sections, which was a major effort this last year to complete 540 and extend the Triangle Expressway over to I-40. And as many of you witnessed coming in this morning, the construction on I-440 improvements, which we anticipate will be completed in 2023, as well as across the state improvements on I-485, and one that folks have been waiting again for decades, the first widening of I-26 in Henderson and Buncombe counties in its history. So then a multitude of different influencers became clear to us. The cost of restoring mobility following natural disasters changed from our normal average historically over the previous 10 years of $66 million a year to over $300 million this last year. Simultaneously, the cost of settling our MAP Act cases, which were critical to delivery of our projects that we had already awarded and limited the future states' exposure, grew from nearly zero to $400 million last year. So the confluence of all those things, it became crystal clear to us and members at DOT, as well as our members at the General Assembly, that our mandated spending mechanisms and our processes that we had for budgeting and programming for disasters no longer can handle the current and modern demands that we're seeing today and potentially in the future. We had no way of paying for storms without impacting other programs. So to put it bluntly, if we deliver all of our programs on budget and then have to respond to growing disasters today and in the future, we would always be falling below our mandated minimums. The two largest impacts, as I said, were storms and MAP Act, which must be paid for out of transportation funds. We have no other sources available to us, and so the impact in 2019 was slightly over $700 million in unanticipated spending in just that year alone. So we were forced to take steps, the only ones that we can take, which is how do we reduce future work and future spending. We have weathered this past year, and at the end of the calendar year, the General Assembly passed Senate Bill 356, which will help us mitigate some of these factors. But with the current physical structure today, we cannot return to the same level of activities that we had in 2018 without significant influx in funds, primarily in our operations and maintenance accounts. We will be delivering over $200 billion in capital projects this year through Garvey and Build NC and our traditional federal funding. However, our financial targets and our mechanisms that are mandated that have worked in the past, we do not see in the near term working in the future. That's why the General Assembly took the action with Senate Bill 356 and made the first steps to create a savings reserve for us because our old systems were just outdated. So you can imagine if our short-term storm response systems were outdated and we need to change, what would happen in the next decade if we're completely unprepared for what you just heard? It would make 2019 look like a really easy year for this transportation industry in North Carolina. Therefore, that's why the NC First Commission is so critical. Today, our investment strategies, we know, need updating and will soon be out of date for the future. How do we prepare for this future? How do we ensure that we're able to invest in a transportation network for all modes and all needs and maintain the quality of life or improve it, as well as improve our economic competitiveness? These are serious questions for the NC First Commission that must be addressed.